Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Beef, where we not only talk about business problems, we talk about business solutions. James, how are you today?
Oh, fantastic, Bob. How about yourself?
Well, you already know.
Yeah, I know. It's been a heck of a day for you. We just spent the last 10 minutes talking about what an amazing day you've been having today.
We should have done that on camera.
I know.
We should just do that. The minute we get on this thing, we should just hit record.
For sure.
And then whatever comes out, comes out. But
yeah. And then we edit it as need be, because sometimes there's some expletives. But,
that's the only problem. But, I'll tell you what it was. We'll give you a preview. But this isn't today's beef, because I know you have one. But but what it is once again, I had more people come to my house that weren't prepared to do the job I hired them to do, or weren't coordinated, and by the end of the day, I had to end up taking over the crews, which they love when I do that. But I wouldn't do that if they were doing their job properly. And it was unbelievable how many things they missed. So it's like, either I accept that, it doesn't matter, or I want it done right, and then I'm a complete jerk. Right? I don't know. Yeah, you know what?
It's called harnessing your inner OCD, Bob, and it's not really just inner for you. It's the way it works. And you aren't a Mason, but you played one on TV today, and anyways, hopefully it got done well.
I'm a Mason now,
and we will exactly now with the experience you've had throughout the day. That's you certainly are.
Yeah,
but we'll take that next time. We'll talk about. We'll definitely
because it's not just this, right? It's like almost every project that I do, I seem to get this. So I'm willing to accept that. Some of it's me, because I expect maybe too high a level of perfection. But then the other part of it is, why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I? Anyway, all right, we'll save.
We had to know, but we did know that like this was going to happen today. This was going to happen today.
Any day I have stuff going on.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to happen for sure.
So this is something, this is going to be therapeutic, because I definitely at some point want to talk about this. Get your real opinion, like how much of it is me and how much of it is
for sure
others. So maybe that'll be next episode.
Oh, sure.
Good preview.
Yeah, preview.
But I'm in a grumpy mood.
I know you are. This is why it's going to be fun today.
So anyway, you have a beef. So tell me what your beef is. Let's talk about yours.
Here's what I wanted to do, right? This is a combination sort of beef, right? We got some feedback and a comment to us around one of the aspects of working from home. And I wanted to bring that up. But also, I had been looking back in some of the older episodes, right? Yeah. And about 3.5 years ago, because we've been doing this constantly over that time frame.
Right. We've taken a 3-year break.
We took a 3-year hiatus for a little while, right?
Retired.
Yeah, it took a lot to think of these creative topics.
Well, that's exactly right. Yeah, these things don't write themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, they completely do, but
we push record and then go. But one of the ones we had done 3.5 years ago was on working from home.
It was.
Right. It was on remote work.
Before that was even a real thing.
Before it was like, people were doing it, but it was important for us at the time, because we had just opened our office when we were working together at the time. We just opened our office in Stanford. And part of the goal there was to almost justify the fact that we all had to go there every day. But
even though nobody wanted to.
But exactly. See how that worked out.
So let's do an episode. That'll do it.
Exactly. So what I wanted to do now was I wanted to do that again. We have a different perspective, right? Different world we live in right now. Just for the viewers out there, it is the middle of November right now. We're in the process of, in the midst of this global pandemic, this COVID environment, where everybody essentially, except for essential workers, are working from home. Right. Yeah. We don't really have a choice. Everybody's doing it. And I wanted to bring this back up to you because I want to see your perspective now versus maybe it was different than it was in the past. Maybe it's the same. And I want to see kind of how you feel about the work from home piece. And some people have always said, oh, I want to work from home. Why can't I work from home? And some bosses have said, I don't want you to work from home for various reasons that we'll talk about as well. And I want to see if that has changed from your perspective yet. And I want to, because my brain has worked a little bit differently now. And I want to see what you're thinking.
Yeah, well, okay. So let's just remind ourselves and our viewers
Yeah.
that when we first tackled this, our conclusion was that there's something to being in the office, having that dynamic.
Correct.
And working from home could be a good thing on an occasional basis, I think is where we were, if I'm not mistaken. But but for the most part, like being in the office is not something that should be overlooked, right? And I think part of it had to do with discipline. And at the time, the real problem we were trying to address with that episode, to be honest, was that we had some people that were working from home. And I put it in, put it on the quotes
working
below.
From home.
They were working from home. And it was very clear that they weren't working from home. Right. Now that wasn't everybody, but there was definitely some times where like, you know, people were working from home and you know, you try and get them and they're like not there or
Can't
whatever.
Find them or they're not responsive and we're thinking and they're
there was a discipline issue, right?
Exactly.
So that was the problem. Okay. So now fast forward.
Yeah.
And everybody's working from home.
Yep.
Okay. So here's my perspective on it. Is that I still stick to our original episode because I do think that working from home takes a certain amount of discipline and it's hard for people to have that discipline. However, here's my footnote. The footnote is when everybody's working from home and that's the new norm, I think the discipline comes along with that. Right. So like if everyone's working in the office, you're the only one working from home, that might be harder to stay disciplined than if everybody's working from home because you're expected to always be online during work hours.
Sure.
Like, I don't know if I'm describing this correctly, but I've just found that like, that's the new group dynamic. So it works. Whereas when it wasn't the group dynamic, it seemed not to work as much.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that does make sense. If I'm hearing you right, it's kind of like the processes have changed. Right.
Yes, right.
How we go about doing work now has changed for everybody. So certain things come into play. One of them is, as everybody knows, Zoom, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. One of those things, everybody knows Zoom, everybody's on Zooms, everybody's doing all of these things that are now expected. So there's more of a process there. Right. So I believe that was what you were saying. And I agree. Right. Because that has definitely made a change in how people work from home. It's not one-offs anymore. It's more of a consistent and it's a model and whatnot. Let me clarify. The process is, I actually wasn't necessarily honing in on that, but that's true too. Like now we have more tools to be able to do it more effectively. But I was also talking about just the psychology of it, you know, like when you know that the new office environment is everybody being remote, you develop the discipline to get on your computer, start at 8 o'clock because everyone's got to do that. Right.
Whereas when everyone's in the office except for you, maybe it's harder to do that because they're not necessarily requiring you to be online. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, for sure. Everybody else isn't doing it. I mean, everybody
else isn't doing it. So like now, like you have meetings top to bottom that are all remote. So you have to get up and do, whereas like if you have 10 people in the office and you're the only one from home, your first meeting might be at 11 o'clock. Well, you know, maybe I'll sleep in, you know, that kind of a thing.
Exactly.
So I think that's what I'm kind of referring to.
And I think that's right too, from the aspect of a level of trust, right?
Right. Yes.
If everybody's not doing it, I don't trust that necessarily you'll get up and start working from 9 to 11 before that meeting takes place. I think maybe you'll be sleeping in. I don't necessarily trust it because because I don't have that trust maybe as a boss. And that's the problem sometimes. Is that the bosses don't trust the employees that they have in order to allow them to do that. And sometimes the employees break that trust by not necessarily doing what they need to be doing from home. But now that everybody's home, it is a different environment. With that said, there are other challenges though, right? And I think one of the things we had said when we did that episode in the past was the quality of and the amount of good work that gets done when people are together, right? When the groups are together.
Undoubtedly.
And man, I've missed that sort of camaraderie. I mean, of being together with people, that human interaction, that energy of being able to, whether it's brainstorming or whether it's just connecting with other humans, that is definitely something that I found has been missing through all of this work from home piece, from a business perspective. So, there's a balance there, right? There's, okay, we have the things in place. People are expected. Maybe there's more trust that people are working from home. But when things go back to normal or we're out of this, it's called COVID environment, where would we like to see things? Where would we like to see that balance a little bit? I don't know if you have thoughts on where would you like to see, like, how do you see that balance between home and work where you think it would be the best?
Well, it's tough. It really is. It's tough to go back. You know what I mean? Because like, well, a lot of my job, well, let's take a couple of things. First of all, commuting, right? I mean, commuting is horrible. It's horrible.
It's a waste of time. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. So when we moved our offices, to commute, it was, I don't know, miraculously, it turned out very convenient for me, but it was not convenient for anybody else.
Miraculously. Yeah. It was just coincidentally. I don't know how that happened.
It was weird. It was weird. One of those karmic things. I don't know. But in any case, but before that, when we were both working in the city, I mean, that was brutal. Right? And having to commute every day and things like that, like terrible. And then on top of that, like the travel. So we both do training. So now all my trainings are virtual, right? And I'm telling you, like getting on a plane and staying in hotels and all that stuff, which I do all the time, that was kind of brutal too. So although I love the face-to-face in both of those situations, I love being in the office and I love being in front of people training. Right. But the getting there is horrible in both cases, right?
For sure.
So like, it really is hard to go back when you say, well, now we've figured out a way to simulate a lot of what we liked. And I don't think we should just like summarily throw that away and then say, okay, we're going to go back to this life that we really weren't happy with. Yeah. So like, I'd like to see a world where we use these tools, we use this way of doing work for the majority of the work that we do, but we still find ways to get together on occasion. So like, go into the office once a week or even once every 2 weeks to have collaborative sessions, but not sit in the office and sit in a cube and do this type of thing from the office, but like have actual reasons that you go to the office, have group events, group brainstorming sessions, something that is actually going to make you say, yeah, that's worth actually traveling for. And I'd say the same thing with company travel or training or things like that. Like, go there because there's a real reason to go there, not just because I'm delivering the same training class that I could deliver via Zoom or WebEx or whatever else, but go there for a real event that makes you want to travel.
Right.
That's what I'd like to see.
Right. No, I'm with you in a lot of ways. When you think about the training aspect, I'm with you. Right. There's some things need to be done and are quite frankly better in person. Right. When you're not in this medium, but a lot of things we can do in this medium now. Right. A lot of things we've gotten more comfortable, and hopefully people that we're training or teaching or consulting or whatever we're doing are getting more comfortable as well, learning from that. Right. That's the key thing as well.
That's another thing. Yeah.
What I do like is the idea that in this environment, I could have my headquarters in New York City. And when you're working through Zoom or through this environment, you can hire people all over the world. Right.
That's very true.
And now your talent pool can be huge, right? You could be a business off in Topeka, Kansas, and you still have that, that variety of people that you could bring in and hire the best person for that job globally. So I think that that's a huge benefit, but I totally agree that human interaction needs to happen, the brainstorming sessions and whatnot. And maybe I'm flying people in for a week. Everybody meets at a certain place, we all meet and discuss, almost like the old sales conferences that would take place, right? Do something like that with your teams, and then you really connect and you have that human interaction. And really it changes the dynamic of how a business works. But I think the human interaction is key.
It's still key. But I also have to say that, think about video conferencing before COVID. It was really uncomfortable for some reason, right?
It was, for sure.
It was like, it was all there and available, but we weren't comfortable as a society doing it on a regular basis, or at least many of us. I know I wasn't, right?
Yeah.
I think what this has definitely done is gotten us all very, very comfortable with this medium. And so that is a big barrier that we've all broken through. Like, now we're comfortable doing it this way. So that does change the dynamic, which means that we now can, well, I'll give you an example of that before I make the point. So I have a phone conference number still, right? Like a telephone conference number. And you can actually access that through the internet as well. So on my appointments, I always had, here's the dial-in number. Right. And if you have trouble getting in on the dial-in, you could use this web link and you could call that way as well. And before COVID, I would say 100% of people, literally no exaggeration, use the call-in number, right?
Right.
Because that's what they were, Now after COVID, same exact message, didn't change the message at all, didn't change anything.
Yep.
Almost 100% of the people connect through the web link.
Through the web link.
And they just go right past it's a phone conference. It says right on there, it's a phone conference. Here's the dial in, whatever.
Right.
But if you can't connect here, but they go right to the web link.
Yeah.
And it's incredible, right? And I'm on the phone and I hear them connecting through the computer. I'm like, are you connecting through the computer? Yeah, that was in the link. Every single person. So that just kind of goes towards, there's this new dynamic.
Yeah,
so all of that to say that because we're all comfortable with that and it's effective, there really is no reason in my mind to go back into the office 5 days a week, like ever. Right.
Yeah.
That would be
yeah. And it's interesting, right? Just to piggyback on what you're saying, not only that, when you do the video conferences now, much more people join it with their cameras on. Right.
Yeah.
They never used to. Everybody used to have like a piece of like tape up on their camera.
Always remember those little covers? Yeah. Nobody does that now.
No, everybody.
And many should. Many should.
I agree. That's why people watch our podcast and not our video.
You know you're on camera. They're like, did you, like it's incredible.
Did you brush your hair this
morning? Anything. But like, I always like to wear a baseball hat, I mean, you would think for obvious reasons, my whole life I've liked to wear a baseball hat.
Because of the shimmer off the lights.
I just got done saying.
Oh, okay.
My whole life.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't bald my entire life. but but that helps, right? It's
for sure.
Either way. But so I'm working with pretty big corporations, and I do a training class, and a large number of the people were wearing baseball hats.
Yeah, me too.
Very casual, Yeah. And I'm like, wow, these are people that would never have come into the office, even in jeans,
That's right.
And now they're at home wearing baseball hats. Well, I kind of think that's really cool.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool that we've come to just accept that, which is great.
I think it's great as well, especially because I work with some financial services businesses, things like that. I get the same sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I also like the transparency. I'll tell you, sometimes it's the, we used to be so afraid. Oh my God, I'm on a call. If anything happens, if the dog barks, I'm going to be embarrassed. Or if this happens, now there's like babies crying, dogs barking, things falling over in the kitchen, whatever's going on.
Cats coming in and out.
Cats coming in, like, crawling right in front of the camera. Like,
people are cool with that, and they should be.
Right. And it's more of that connection, right? It's more that transparency with people. And I think that's huge. Now, on the flip side, and this goes to something one of our viewers also wanted to talk a bit about, is there's this big thing that's going on now. That's people that are constantly on Zooms, right? We don't have the ability to meet in person, right? We don't have that ability right now in this environment. So people are getting what they've called Zoom fatigue.
Poor Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom fatigue.
Could be WebEx fatigue.
Right, exactly.
Microsoft Teams fatigue.
could be whatever, but Zoom's getting the rap, right? Because Zoom's getting used more than anything, right? And reasonably so. I've had my best experiences with Zoom, just to be honest.
We're doing this on Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. Right here.
This is not, by the way, a placement. But
no, it's not at all.
It just happens to be what we're using.
It's
anyway, yes,
got it. More of a fact than anything else, right? But are there other things, right? Is Zoom fatigue really a concern? Are there other ways we need to start looking at, meeting after meeting on Zoom all day long? Other impacts that could happen to us, right? Things that we haven't foreseen because we've never had to do this, right, in the past, that we also need to think a bit about and react to and understand that our bodies may not be used to sitting in this chair, looking at a video camera, looking at a screen all day long when we've been traveling and meeting people in person, and other businesses been doing the same, right?
Yeah. It's probably really unhealthy too, because like time goes fast, right? And so you don't realize that not only you're sitting in the exact same position in the exact same space, right?
That's right.
So there's fatigue on your body, there's fatigue on your eyes. There's also just fatigue. I'm tired. Like after I have,
exhausted,
a 4-hour training session on Zoom, I am really, really tired.
Yeah.
Not to mention the amount I'm eating and drinking afterwards. It's ridiculous.
Well, it's a good thing you're going back to the gym though, right? Did you get back to the gym from last time?
From the last time we talked?
From the last episode we had done. Yeah.
Oh, no. It's just the one visit.
Good. You don't want to get too crazy.
Get crazy.
Yeah. Hurt muscle. You pull
I don't want to, right. I'm going in slow, but yes, but all of this, right?
But
so we definitely will be in this place of fatigue on these video conference things, And I think that's something we have to address. So how do you address it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is there something you could do while moving around? Is there, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
I think it's a real thing.
I don't know either. I think it's a real thing too. And I think we'll find out more and more. I think, we need to, I think standing, it sounds so ridiculous, is one of the most important things, right? To get that blood flow going. I've always known that. And still I'll sit here for 8-9 hours and be a mess when I stand up, everything will hurt. Right. So it's just a matter of moving and trying to, I think, get that blood flowing a little bit more if we are sitting all day or setting up meetings or setting up time on your calendar to get outside and walk, like go do something, right? Because you don't necessarily have your lunch. You don't necessarily, because you're just here, right? But try to carve out those times for yourself to help out.
And knowing when to end the conversation. This is another, like, especially when I do friend Zooms, right? Like, have you done this? Like together with your friends and you don't really know when to end. Like you just sit there in this uncomfortable silence, drinking a beer and like,
so what's up?
You don't want to be the one to say goodbye. It's boy, and then you come off of it. You're like, my God, that went on too long. Like, couldn't somebody have said, hey, look, this is going to be 30 minutes. I love you guys, but after that, like, I really don't love you that much. Like those are the kinds of things I think. And in companies, of course, we're doing the same thing. We've just taken the ridiculous amount of meetings that we had in person and we've translated them to now we have them on Zoom. So people that don't have a lot of good meeting discipline,
that's right,
they've just translated those bad habits to Zoom or whatever, again, whatever your video conference of choice. But that is, I think, what people mean by being fatigued by it, right? They're now bombarded by those types of meetings.
And think about it, right? We were always concerned. We were concerned before this around screen time for our kids that are now also doing this for school. And honestly, for us, I mean, we could go ahead and blame our kids and say that they're on all the time, but a lot of us also are looking at our phones and doing things on our phone, whether working or playing or doing whatever, reading our emails. Now we're on this. Think about the total screen time that you have now in a given day. When you're working, you're on Zoom. When you're not working, you're on your phone. Yeah. It's like
we're all going to be blinded by the computer.
Exactly.
It's like, it's nuts. It really is.
It's crazy.
So there's something there, right? Like anything, we tend to go all in one direction, all in another direction. Yeah. So this balance, I think, coming back to what we said, having this balance of work from home and work from the office, but make it intentional. I don't think it should be you're doing the same job 5 days a week and you just do some of it from home, some of it from, no, make the work from home stuff conducive to working from home and make the office stuff a reason to come into the office. Right. And I think if companies find that balance, then you'll have happier employees, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll get rid of all these problems. So
100%. And in the meantime, know that, we don't necessarily have that luxury right now, right? Here we are in this environment. If you're on Zoom calls a lot or you're doing a lot of things online, get up, move around, take your breaks, manage your schedule to a point where you can, try to manage your time, manage your energy, stand up, get outside, do whatever you have to do. Go to the gym more than once a month. Do whatever it is that it takes to make yourself feel better, right? To try to manage that aspect of things along the way as well. But
totally
for sure,
agree. Totally agree. Well, good stuff. I think that's a good problem advice. Yeah. Thinking of the future. Maybe we address it again, in 3 more years.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's interesting, right? Because the way things have changed, the world has changed. It's interesting to look back at that episode and to think about where we were coming from and the things that we had talked about. And I totally love the fact that we can work from home, and a lot of businesses can. But man, we need human interaction, especially you and me. We're those type of people. I need to be working, talking, seeing people, and doing it. And they're not my kids, by the way. I've had enough of my kids. You can keep them. I got 4 of them working from home and now we're schooling from home.
We're good.
Full time. You can keep them. I need adult interaction. Yeah.
Well, I will say one thing that's gotten, I think, better from the distance is this show. I mean, I actually like this format a lot. So. Yeah. So there you go.
Me too. I hope other people feel the same way. Let us know. Leave your comments below.
Yeah, so there you go. So that's a good way to wrap this up. Of course, if you like this episode, please let us know. Subscribe. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you didn't like it. But you know what? Don't do that. But definitely reach out to us if you have something you want us to talk about. We'd love to hear from you. Subscribe, tell your friends, all that great stuff. And of course, go to beyondthebeef.net and you'll see all of our episodes out there, as well as a link to the podcast. If you want this in just audio format, please go ahead and do that.
There you go.
So I think that's a good way to end it until next week. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, it sounds good. I like it. Hopefully they will as well. And we'll get moving.
All right, good. Then we'll end it there. Until
All right.
next time, we'll see you back here on another episode of
Beyond the Beef.
Talk to you soon.
See you guys.